The wind carried silence through the canyon, heavy and strange. 70 Apache warriors stood in a long line, their faces painted, their eyes fixed on him. In each hand, a single white feather. Sterling Maddox sat motionless on the sand, dust streaking his hat, breath shallow as the sun bled gold across the horizon. They did not speak, did not draw weapons. One by one, they stepped forward and placed their feathers at his feet. 70 soft whispers of respect, falling like snow. Sterling didn't understand. He'd expected death, not ceremony. The last warrior, older than the mountains, nodded once and said in a voice rough as stone, 70 lives for one horse. The word struck him harder than any bullet. And just like that, the memory came back. The woman in the dust and the choice that changed everything. It had been 3 days earlier. The sun was merciless, turning the land to fire. Sterling had ridden through the canyon, searching for water or a shade, when he saw her, a woman, lying half buried in the dirt beside a dead mesquite. Her dress was torn, her skin streaked with blood and sand. She looked up as his shadow fell across her, eyes dark, proud, defiant even in pain. She didn't plead, didn't move, just stared. Sterling knelt beside her, his hands open, careful not to startle her. "You're hurt," he said softly. Her answer came in Apache, sharp, cold, and final. He didn't need a translation. Still, he knelt beside her, untied his canteen, and poured water into her palm. She hesitated, then drank. In that instant, something shifted. She wasn't his enemy anymore, and he wasn't hers. By the time night fell, her wound had worsened. She could barely stand, the strength draining from her with every step. Sterling knew she'd die if left there. He didn't think, he acted. He brought his horse forward, the last good thing he owned. "Take her," he whispered, voice tight with urgency. She shook her head weakly, eyes burning with pride. "No." He pressed the reins into her hands anyway. "You'll ride, I'll walk." The horse snorted, restless. The woman gripped the saddle, wincing as she climbed. The moment she was seated, Sterling started walking, boots cutting through the dust, steady, silent. He walked all night and into dawn, leading her through the desert like a ghost guiding another. Each step took his strength, but he never looked back. He'd given her more than a horse. He'd given her his life. Morning broke in firelight. They crested the ridge, and there they were, a line of Apache warriors, watching in silence from the canyon floor. Sterling stopped, his hand still on the reins. The woman tensed in the saddle, her breath catching. "She came for me," she whispered. He nodded slowly, figured they might. No one moved. The air felt alive with danger, the kind that could explode with a single breath. Then one warrior rode forward. His horse stopped a few feet from Sterling. The man looked from him to the woman, then down at the reins in her hands. He dismounted, knelt, and touched the horse's bridle with reverence. "The law of the horse gift," he said. "You are bound to her now." Sterling didn't know the law, but he knew his life had just changed forever.
They brought him to their camp, a circle of smoke and silence. The woman, now walking, wounded but proud, spoke softly with the elder. Sterling couldn't catch the words, but he saw their faces. Awe, confusion, respect. The elder finally turned to him. "Among our people," he said, "a man who gives his horse to save a life ties his spirit to that life. He cannot break it, not by choice, not by death." Sterling swallowed hard. Didn't do it for a law. The old man's eyes glinted. That is why it matters. Around them, warriors murmured. The woman glanced his way, her face unreadable. You walk with her spirit now, the elder continued, and the spirits of those who ride with her. Sterling looked down at his empty hands, realizing just how much a gift could cost. That evening, the camp filled with firelight and drums. The woman stood beside him, her wound wrapped in new cloth. She didn't meet his gaze. The elder raised his hands. The man who gave his horse must now be tested. The spirit of the gift must be proven. Sterling frowned. Tested how? Came the answer. By truth. At sunrise, you will face the circle. You will speak your reason, and the fire will judge. He wanted to laugh, but the solemn faces around him killed the thought. As the drums faded, the woman finally turned to him. If you lie, she said quietly, they'll kill you. Sterling nodded once. If I tell the truth? She hesitated. They still might. He smiled faintly. Then I'll make it a good story. At dawn, the sky burned red. Sterling stood within a ring of stones, his hands bound behind him. The tribe gathered in silence, faces painted, feathers catching the wind. The elder spoke first. Why did you give your horse? Sterling's voice was low, steady. Because she was dying. That is reason enough for pity, not for honor. Why truly? He met the elder's eyes. Because I've been left for dead too, once, by men I trusted. The crowd murmured. The woman's expression softened, but she said nothing. The elder stepped closer, searching his face for lies. You seek forgiveness. He exhaled. Maybe, but not from you. The fire crackled, sparks rising into the dawn. The elder nodded once. Then you are ready for the second test. Sacrifice. He only smiled grimly. Always figured that one was coming. They tied a spear upright in the earth before him, its tip gleaming in the sun. 5 warriors stood behind it. You may name one to take your place, or face all 5 alone. Sterling didn't hesitate. No one takes my place. The elder studied him. And if you die? He shrugged. Then I die knowing I kept my word. The crowd shifted, whispers passing like wind through grass. The woman stepped forward. Let me stand with him. The elder raised a hand. No, the law forbids it. Her jaw tightened. Then the law is wrong. But Sterling only shook his head. You owe me nothing. When the sun reached its peak, the tests began, and the cowboy stood alone, bleeding, but unbroken. And when it was done, no one doubted his heart. By dusk, the camp was silent again. The elder approached, his face carved from shadow. You have faced truth in pain. What remains is choice. Sterling looked up through blood and dust. Choice? Walk away, and the bond ends. Stay, and the bond becomes life. He turned toward the woman. She met his eyes, proud, unflinching. If you stay, you belong to our people, she said softly. If you go, you walk alone. He thought of his horse, of freedom, of the trail calling west. Then he thought of her, strong, scarred, alive. I've been alone long enough, he said. The elder nodded. Then so it shall be. And from that night on, he was no longer a stranger. He was one of them. When dawn came, the elders gathered again, seated in a half-circle of smoke and feathers. The air carried the weight of ceremony. The eldest rose. The An who gave his horse has passed the trials. His spirit is true. The tribe struck their drums once, a sound like thunder rolling across eternity. The woman stood behind him now, her wound nearly healed, her pride intact. "You gave what you did not have to give," she said softly. He turned to her. "You gave me something back." "What?" He smiled faintly. "A reason to stay." The elder lifted a white feather, pressed it into Sterling's hand. "The bond between you is sealed, not by blood, but by choice." And for the first time, the cowboy understood what peace felt like. That evening, they gathered under a full moon. One by one, the warriors came forward, each carrying a feather, 70 in total. Each man placed his feather before Sterling and then bowed his head. "For the horse," they said in turn, "for the gift." He stood still, humbled beyond words. The woman watched, her eyes reflecting firelight. When the last man stepped back, the elder spoke. "These 70 feathers are 70 promises. Wherever you ride, our eyes will follow. You are no longer alone." The cowboy bowed his head. The desert wind lifted the feathers into the air, swirling them around like snow. For a moment, he swore he could hear the hoofbeats of his horse again, steady, strong, eternal. Before dawn, the woman approached with his horse. The animal's mane was braided with white feathers, its saddle newly repaired. "The elders send this, a gift for the giver," she said. He touched the horse's neck gently, the animal pressing close like it remembered. "Looks like you found your way home," he whispered. The woman smiled faintly. "So did you." He mounted up, looking down at her, strong, proud, alive. "You'll be all right?" She nodded. "I was before you came, but now I am better." Sterling tipped his hat, turned the horse toward the rising sun, and rode. Behind him, 70 feathers danced in the wind. The bond between them would outlive the desert, and the story of the cowboy who gave his horse would echo forever through the West.